As someone that daily uses an S20 FE, you guys killed me on Twitter for not just immediately shitting on Samsung and the release of the S21 FE. It took me a couple days to really process and think about this, try to figure out if anyone should be buying this phone, who should be buying this phone, is the phone a good or a bad value? We're gonna get into that, but first, my name is Mitchell. I'm fluent in tech, so you don't need to be, and I just like to make videos about tech that I use. Now, really quick, the S21 FE is supposed to be the fan edition of the S21, meaning it's supposed to give you like 8/10 or 85% of the flagship experience. And a big part of the flagship experience, at least in my opinion, is consistency, meaning consistency for battery life, consistency for cameras, consistency with updates. It's all about giving you an experience that doesn't fall off, meaning have a great screen and a terrible camera, or have a great screen and terrible charging, or things like that. And so that's really what the S21 is. It's some of the best parts that you get with the Samsung device, boiled down and refined at a more reasonable price point. That said, Samsung's releasing the S22 in a matter of weeks at this point, and it makes the S21 FE a difficult device to recommend. And it's a definite don't recommend if you have an S20 FE. You're gonna get the same cameras, and I don't know whether or not Samsung is gonna be using the Samsung sensors in the Exynos versions of the device. You're getting an upgrade in SoC from the Snapdragon 865 to the Snapdragon 888 or the Exynos 2100. Now, in the past, there was a bigger difference between the Exynos variant and the Snapdragon variant because of overheating issues with the Exynos variant. That said, the Snapdragon 888 has had tons of issues with overheating, so even if you get the Exynos variant, I don't think that for sustained performance, it's going to be that big of a difference. You are going to be losing out on the SD card slot, which sucks. Starting RAM is 6 gigabytes of RAM. I haven't been able to see whether or not you can get an 256 gigabyte variant of it, although that would make it even a worse value because it brings it so much closer to the price of the S21 normal. And if you're willing to buy a used phone, well then it's not even a question. That said, in America, the big players are Samsung, Apple, Motorola, and Google's not really on the radar. If you're in America, I would definitely suggest you should probably get the Google Pixel 6 if you're not part of the Samsung ecosystem. That said, if you have a Samsung Galaxy S9 and you have no more updates, you don't want to buy a used phone, the S21 FE is going to be a better device than the S20 FE, just in regards to the fact that it's going to have a newer, more efficient SoC, which does have some thermal throttling issues. You're gonna have the same 25-watt charging as you would on the S20. You're going to have the same cameras. You're gonna have a slightly smaller display. Samsung hasn't published, or I haven't been able to find the brightness of their new display. I would assume it's slightly brighter than the S20 FE display, which would be my only complaint about this device. My experience with my S20 FE has been very much a flagship experience, especially compared to the Xiaomi devices I've had in the past. All three cameras are good. You get really good video features in all three cameras. You get the ability to shoot HDR video on the ultra wide. You get 4K 30 on the main and the ultra wide. The telephoto doesn't have the necessary resolution to support 4K video. It's a 8 megapixel sensor. But you're gonna have OIS on the main and the telephoto, which is more than a lot of other companies can say at this price range. You're gonna get really good battery life. You're gonna get like 25-watt charging with the ability to turn off the 25-watt charging if you live in a hot climate, which for me during summer here in Vietnam, turning off that super fast charging means that if I'm using the device, I don't run into thermal issues. That's even more important with the Exynos 2100 and Snapdragon 888. If you're willing to buy a used device, or you live in a country where battery replacements are the same way they are here in Vietnam, being like 25, 30 bucks, and you can go to a ton of different stores here, and the most expensive battery replacement would be 50 bucks and the cheapest would be 30 bucks here. The S21 or the S21 Plus is going to get you better cameras. It's going to get you a brighter screen. It's going to get you a better overall, more flagship device. Now, the one area that I would say is a bonus for the S21 FE is going to be the 3 years of updates, since I believe it's shipping with Android 12 out of the box, meaning you're gonna get Android 15. In my head, when I think about Samsung and their whole strategy of more software updates, extending the lifespan of their devices, giving older devices new features through software, which they've done, I think that they're not even trying to sell this S21 FE to S20 FE buyers. They're trying to sell it to people that have a Galaxy S9. And in America, where there's a lot of carrier subsidizing of devices, you would be able to probably walk out with your S21 FE for zero money down and just paying it off monthly with your contract, which makes it a lot more appealing than other devices on the market. Outside of America, there's the Realme GT2, which is going to have better cameras, a better screen. There's devices like the Xiaomi Mi 12. The Xiaomi Mi 12 isn't really even close, but there's devices from Motorola, which I would consider, but really at like that $700, not flagship, high mid-range price point, the S21 FE is going to give you a flagship experience that's well-rounded in almost all aspects that would make a flagship device flagship. But at the price point, it's a little bit difficult for me to recommend it if you're someone that upgrades your phone every year. If you're someone that wants to buy one phone and use it for 3 years, I think the S21 FE is kind of a no-brainer. Just get the 256 gigabyte if it's one that's available. If you're on a budget, get the S21 regular or the S21 Plus used, and it's probably going to be a better option, and get the battery replaced for however much it costs and enjoy that. And that's it. There's not that much for me to really hate on with this device. I think that it's a decent overall device, just coming in at a weird price point at a weird time. But ultimately, that's more likely than not a chip shortage issue and a global pandemic issue. But not a bad device.